All right, let's take a while, make sure this is going. I gotta share it and then blah, blah, blah. Let me just share this real quick. I do appreciate it. I assume if you're watching this right now, you're probably watching on the replay. This is probably going to be a shorter one today just to get it out of the way real quick. I just share it on Twitter and then we'll be all good to go. Just get these stupid hashtags out of the way. Watch, there's that. There's that. That's streaming. All right, so I'm gonna look at questions in a minute, but I just want to get this out of the way. And this, like I said when I first started, this is probably gonna be a shorter live stream just because I don't want to go like an hour and a half today or 2 hours, probably around 40 minutes or 30 minutes. But we're at the wrong one. Look at Texas. I got all my lineups done last night, and so I stayed up playing Counter-Strike until 5 a.m. So I only slept 2.5 hours, pretty much. You know, I've been up for about an hour trying to wake up just so I could do this without stumbling over my words too much. But I want to get this over with talking about the punt plays in the back because I don't want to waste my whole day talking about this type of stuff. And so when you look at the trends at Texas Motor Speedway in the truck series, you tend to see wrecks, and you tend to see the punt range and the punt value and the ugly plays in the back. Some of them work out, some of them don't. And I think we need to really probably look at this more as a let me change this. Let me get another sheet going here. We really need to look at this more in terms of salary than starting position, certainly when it gets down to the bottom of the barrel here. So when we're looking at punt plays in the truck series, we have two options of how they work out in the truck series. So it's either an attrition play, you know, people wreck out, they're maybe off pace, but they survive and they're slow enough to where they don't get caught up in wrecks, or the other way is that these are guys that are in good equipment or in better equipment that are going to be up there racing, making something happen, that quote unquote should finish better, but tend to get involved in wrecks or tend to, you know, make mistakes and don't work out. So how would we rank the guys in the back in terms of who is, you know, an attrition play and who should, you know, go up there and race? And it's I'm gonna cut it off at probably Hill, and I don't want to, but we're gonna set these guys up here. So the reason I'm counting Hill is because Hill and Fogelman seem to be the popular plays right now, which I don't blame people for it. I would much rather trust, you know, Hill and Fogelman over, you know, Jennifer Jo Cobb or Wooji or Cicerelli, things of that nature. But when you're looking at, and I probably need to get these, no, I won't put the starting grid on there. And so where do you think the ownership is going to go? Where do you think the likelihood of somebody being in a wreck is when it goes back to those two ways that punts work, the attrition and the, you know, going up there and racing? How do these guys get to value? Well, obviously Timmy Hill, you know, he's starting farther up in the field today. Or Tyler Hill, he's going to get that by, sorry, let me bring up this. He's going to get this by basically surviving full-time sponsor. They got a really good sponsor on the car this week, but sorry, let me bring this up. You know, Tyler Hill starting 25th. We've seen him finish decent here at Texas before. He finished 11th here in the fall last year in one race that he did. Obviously, he wrecked out of Las Vegas, or I forgot what exactly. I'm pretty sure he got involved in the wreck at Las Vegas. Finished 36th, 35th. My bad. How does Timmy Hill work? Basically, or Tyler Hill. How does Tyler Hill work? He basically holds his position or gains into the top 20. Now, how does he gain to the top 20? We've seen Tyler Hill and Timmy Hill gain positions late in these races because of late race cautions. And so I would look at Tyler Hill as more of a attrition play, because I don't think Tyler Hill is going to go up there and race and do a 13th place finish or anything like that. And depending on how you view a race going, you need to either bump up your projections for certain guys or knock them down. But that's how I assume, or that's how I see Tyler Hill working out. It's a situation to where, you know, he gets late race restarts. I don't see Tyler Hill really driving through the field during the race. Now, Tate Fogelman, you know, basically starting darn close to the last. Sorry. Got to fix that so I'm not having to think crap. Let's see, Tate Fogelman starting 31st. And so what's a path that Tate Fogelman, you know, outscores Tyler Hill, outscores the other guys? Well, he goes from the back. He goes from 31st up into like 25th, 26th. I would even bump Tate Fogelman up if he wasn't getting involved in a wreck to finishing around 22nd, 21st, 20th, because that's what the car has. That's what he should finish around. Now, this is the exact same situation we've had at Tate Fogelman pretty much anytime he's raced here, is because he's always in the chalk range. He's always in the value range, and he always seems to get involved in wrecks. I'm not using, oh, Tate Fogelman is always involved in wrecks, don't play him. I don't use that. It's not like, you know, one previous event directly reflects this race here. It's not like you're at the roulette table and you keep betting on black and it keeps going to red, and so you assume that it's gonna hit black at some point, so you keep hitting black down, whereas those situations don't influence the next one. Or whether, you know, it's a streak of red and then you keep putting red on assuming that it's going to keep hitting red, and yet, like, those events don't correlate together. They're just independent events in a sequence. And so do I think Tate Fogelman, you know, runs into an issue, wrecks here? Tate Fogelman, a driver that we've already seen, you know, get involved in wrecks this year, get involved in wrecks in races where, you know, there really shouldn't be wrecks. A Texas race that's going to be a very difficult track. That's where I assume Tate Fogelman is going to have another issue. So I would lean more towards Tate Fogelman, you know, running into an issue. However, if he doesn't, he's easily going to probably be the best play in this range, just because he's going to get up and actually, you know, race up there. I want to talk about Chris Wright next, because it's the same situation here. So we've seen Chris Wright do the same thing that Tate Fogelman has done during his races. He either, you know, basically kind of finishes where he should, or he gets involved in a wreck. So the same argument to be made with Tate Fogelman, you know, a driver that is going to be up there racing, trying to get everything out of the car, is more likely to make a mistake. I would lean that towards Tate Fogelman and Chris Wright. Like, these guys are sketchy. Probably the safest play here, if you can afford him, would probably be Tyler Hill. I think he's fine in either situation. I just think he's rewarded more in a wreck type of race. I don't think anybody's going to play Corey Roper. I still have him as the worst play on the slate. It's a shame, because if he was a bit cheaper, we could maybe start considering it. But when you're paying, you know, $5,500 for Corey Roper, I would much rather, if you're playing Roper, I'd much rather just play Wright for the lower salary and what his lineup, or what using him in lineups allow you to do. I'm not a fan of Roper at all. Keith McGee, you know, Jennifer Joe Cobb, Awuji, Cicerelli, and Benning all fall into the category of attrition plays. So I expect these guys to go multiple laps down, but we've seen, you know, not just looking at Racing Reference in the video that I made earlier in the week, but if you've looked at, you know, the punt plays in the Texas races, I mean, going back quite a bit now, drivers who go laps down, who are pretty much off the pace, are, if this race becomes a wreck fest, which I assume it's going to, just because that's how Texas has been, so I'm building lineups assuming that there are going to be wrecks involved. I would honestly give, you know, Keith McGee, Cobb, Awuji, Ray Cicerelli, and Norm Benning, like, if you want to bump them up to give them like a 26th place finish, a 24th place finish, it's obvious optimizers and everything is going to want to shove these guys in, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility to start projecting these guys for, you know, 24th, 25th, 26th versus, you know, 30th or things like that. Like, I would give all these guys a bump. And so because of that, I really enjoy the lineups that these drivers give you. Keith McGee is obviously with Reum Brothers. Jennifer Joe Cobb has Patrol Dog or some security organization sponsoring her. They still can't show a picture of the car, but she's recently had a new sponsor. Awuji's going to have some bullshit good sponsor just because he's a Awuji. Ray Cicerelli is coming in with a new sponsorship as well, and so that actually makes me feel better about rostering Jennifer Joe Cobb and about rostering Ray Cicerelli. Now, Ray and Jennifer can still, you know, blow a motor or have an issue early in the race that takes him out. But I'm certainly not as worried about these guys as I'm normally. Norm Benning's the only one that I'm worried if this race turns into Wreckfest late in the race. Norm can't take advantage of that because he might be taken off the track due to not making minimum speed, which he's done at least 4 times this year so far. And so the Norm situation is risky. Maybe not risky in a sense because he's still a punt play and you might need that salary, but the Norm Benning play, like, he's going to go laps down extremely quick. Like, he needs the Wreckfest to happen really, really fast for him to take advantage of that type of stuff. I haven't seen a picture of Norm's car. Haven't seen anything around Norm. He's still saying that he can't race, and I mean, he was selling tires for like $25 and just selling a bunch of old stuff on Facebook about a month ago, trying to get money to be here. He's back to saying, hey, if you give me $100, I'll write your name on the car. So Norm's really the only concerning play right here. I have ownership right now to Cobb, Cicerelli, Awuji, and McGee, just because I kind of wanted to cover all bases today. But that's where it's from. Like, I do not hate this range at all. If you get to it, that's fine. If you don't get to it, I understand why you don't want to get to it. But I wanted to say that because I already know I'm going to get a lot of questions on that. So outside of that, what kind of questions? What kind of things do you guys want to talk about? I guess lastly, I did talk about this in the video as well, but when you look at those wrecks that have happened in the truck series, sure, it's guys that are bad. It's guys that are going to, that you would expect to be involved in crashes, but it's also, chalkier, value range plays. It's chalkier, like 8 to 9K types of drivers, to where, looking at old lineups compared to this race, I would not be shocked to see, Crafton, Creed, Sauter, Enfinger, one of these guys get caught up in a wreck. Or somebody like Chandler Smith, Derek Kraus, Drew Dollar, Tyler Ankrum, Haley Deegan, Austin Wayne Self. I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys get caught in wrecks. So keep that in mind. I think if there's wrecks, it's going to involve guys who are chalked. It's going to involve guys who aren't. So just keep that in mind. Let's check and see that I've talked about a lot here. Let's go ahead and look. Let's see. Yeah, the whole like I don't project ownership. I almost clicked on the projected points there on accident. That's how tired I am. This is all this stuff is what I put into Patreon. This is what I what I track my lineups with. So I've done pretty good to not accidentally ever hit those before, but I almost did there because I'm so tired. What was I saying? So, like the Ray Cicerelli play. Yeah, I don't hate it. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Yeah, oh yeah, dude, Counter-Strike's awesome, man. Speaking of that, I've had some questions related to Counter-Strike because I've changed up the way I project for it about the last week and a half, 2 weeks right now, and right now I've won a single game contest in Counter-Strike, and I finished 30th or 40th yesterday, actually. No, not yesterday, Thursday. And if I just projected for the Sinners and Tropica, I think that was the name. If I just projected them to go to game 3, we probably would have taken it down because we were tied for first for most of that final game. But anyway, so I don't know if I'm gonna offer those fuck you, people don't care. This is NASCAR. The point is, I've considered offering Counter-Strike projections, but it's just so goddamn time consuming, and nobody is gonna want to pay for that. So I'm not doing that. Let's see, 2 punt. So going back to the punt plays, if you end up bumping these guys up in the back to getting, what is with my keyboard's dying. If you end up playing the guys in the back and you end up bumping them up to finish around, 24th, 23rd, you can play 2 of these guys and easily fit in Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, John Nemechek, however you want to do that. Like, I don't hate double punting here as well. Just know that that's what that type of lineup needs. Like, you need the chaos. Just as long as you're aware of that. But I'm going to assume that still happens. Let's see. Yeah, so it... Yeah, he's still Man, Nor, these, so, you know, Jennifer Jo Cobb had her trailer stolen. Mike Harmon Racing had their trailer stolen. Norm Benning had his trailer stolen. And, like, I like how pretty much all of them have bitched that the insurance hasn't, like, covered them. But, like, I'm pretty sure they don't have coverage for, like, a $100,000 car on top of the equipment in that trailer. Like, man, it's a mess. Let's see. Yeah, well, I mean, every time somebody hits that damn traction cut bounce, gonna have a question here. Um, so yeah, I don't give a fuck about the chassis for Chase Elliott. I don't give a single shit whatsoever. In this situation, the chassis doesn't matter. It could be a fucking road course chassis, okay? The reason that GMS is bringing it is because they're aware. One, they've totaled a lot of chassis over the last season. You know, they're getting into the reserves at this point. Obviously, they're still making more, but think of all the chassis that Tyler Ankrum has taken out. Think of all the chassis that Chase Purdy has taken out. Think of all the good, fast cars that even Creed has taken out. You know, they just lost a brand new chassis at Charlotte with Creed. You know, that was a lost chassis. I believe it tore the frame up. And so, you know, it's not like, oh, man, this is a bad chassis. I don't care about that. It's Chase Elliott in this car. It's GMS in this car. You know, anytime you get a good driver and a competent, you know, motor, it's going to be fine. I'm not concerned about the chassis at all. I know I talk about that more like when there's like actual like data showing that, hey, this chassis is faster. That Go Fast Racing chassis that Corey LaJoie ran at super speedways, when you compared his time in that car and how that car performed versus other chassis he raced at super speedways in that time, despite regardless if those chassis wrecked or not, you can see that chassis was faster. I only care about chassis when I can see the data supporting that, hey, you know, this exact number chassis, you know, has an aerodynamic advantage or something along those lines. So I don't care about this chat. I think people are blowing that out of the water because I don't really care at all. Chandler, I'm not answering pump play questions, man. I'm too tired to spend half an hour talking about pump plays. So let's talk about plays that I think we need to consider of who to put with those punt plays. I personally like John Nemechek. I have Chase Elliott projected for more, but it's within, I think it's 3 or 4 points. I didn't open it on this screen. But they're the highest plays. I was in the premium Discord for, freemium, the one that Jason and Ryan run, and this is why I kind of hate grading, because somebody was like, well, Cruz had Chase Elliott rated as an A, so I guess we got to play him, or I'm going to fade him, or whatever. Like, obviously, projections will change. Like, right now, I'm projecting Elliott and John Hunter to lead the majority of the laps. Obviously, if Elliott doesn't lead laps and it all goes to John Nemechek, John Hunter's a better play. If John Hunter doesn't lead laps and Chase Elliott gets to the front just on pure place differential, he'll be a better play. So you gotta ask yourself what type of situations these guys work in, what type of situations these guys don't work in, and the grading. Like, I just kind of put it here for visual, but I hate it when people, you know, like really live and die by that type of stuff. Anyway, I like Ben Rhodes as a pivot off of John Nemechek for much cheaper. I just like that. Hocevar said same thing with Charlotte. I don't think he's going to work out, just because if this race becomes a wreckfest yet again, we see Hocevar, Gill, and, you know, drivers that I would see making a mistake. And also, this is a race where I think a lot of value is going to come through on the 6K range in the back of the field, where I don't think Carson Hocevar works for this price. Like a normal week where it would go green, I would really be considering Hocevar here, but I'm just not going to do it here. Gillen, not going to do it. I think he's going to lose positions, and then Gillen seems like a kid who's going to, you know, be involved in a wreck. I like Friesen. I've liked Friesen a lot this year, and he just keeps getting in bad situations. I liked him more in the 8K range. I don't think he hits 5 value. Right now I have him as like right at a 4, closer to a 3. That's why it's a D. Maybe if other guys have issues, but I'm just not high on those guys. I'm most likely just going to be trying to shove in as much Craft and Creed, Sauter, and Finger in every lineup as possible. That's just how it's going to be. I just love these 4 drivers. And I'll eat the chalk there. That's perfectly fine. I do have a lineup with Drew Dollar in it, trying to get different. But yeah, that's about where we're at here. Let me see. So I gotta go back here to see the prices because I'm tired. So people like Josh Berry, I think this truck is trash. Peters is more than capable of wielding a race car, and I feel like he got the short end of the stick there. I don't see Berry getting anything more than what Peters was getting out of that car. Because if you look at the finishes, a lot of them are mechanical issues. Like Peters isn't destroying the car. He was involved in some wrecks this year, but he's not like just destroying the car. Like it's not a driver issue. It's an equipment issue there. Johnny Sauter in the AK range. I like Sauter more than other people. Pretty much this whole season it hasn't worked out a ton, but for 8K with Johnny Sauter and a Thor Sport car, Sauter's been over the hill for quite a few years, but in the 8K range, I like Sauter way more than I like Ankrum, way more than I like Kraus, way more than I like Dollar. So I'm going to be on Johnny Sauter probably regardless. If I end up being overweight on the field, then so be it. Just because he seems to, not bust, but like burn people. That's how it is. And I also like making lineups with purely 9K guys, purely 9AK guys. The pricing is really soft. And you could even get John Henry Nemechek or Chase Elliott in a lot of lineups in the 9K range. Like when you're down here and certainly playing two of these guys, it's super easy to get all the high dollar plays. So that's not an issue for me. Who leads lap in this race after John Henry Nemechek? So I'm gonna have to let me open this and I'll talk to you about some projections and stuff. And I mainly look at projections in a sense of looking at previous hog points or dominator points and looking at past laps led or who typically has a fast car. And if this race has a lot of restarts, who do I think is going to get through the field and things of that nature. So the people who I have projected for laps led right now, and this is whether it's 50 laps or 2 laps. This is just every name that I have laps projected for. John Henry Nemechek, Ben Rhodes, Stuart Friesen, Zane Smith, Crafton Creed, Austin Hill, Grant Enfinger, Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain. Those are the people I have some number of laps projected for. And we'll tag on like a couple guys outside of that for fast laps. But that's the group that I would imagine would lead laps if they get the opportunity to, if that makes sense there. So we also need to look at who those guys were. Like you're looking at the same data I am, ACS, and so when you're looking at here, I'll bring up that exact thing. Remember, I personally use Pierce Dietrich's sheet. You can find it at True DFS. But when you look at the exact, this is the Xfinity sheet. If you look at that page, and you're seeing guys who have had fast laps led this year, it's typically guys who are either just having a stupid fast car or are starting up in the front because they're a fast car. So the people we've seen have oops, that's last year. Sorry about that. It's Truex, Kyle Busch, John Henry Nemechek. So the three fastest cars this year. And then you got Sheldon Creed getting fast laps and laps led. Grant Enfinger getting fast laps and laps led. Ben Rhodes getting fast laps and laps led. Chastain getting some fast laps this year. Even Kaz Grala got some. Austin Hill has pretty much had at least 1 or 2 points of Dominator points in each one. Chandler Smith, Todd Gilliland. So I don't think it's necessarily like, if they're in the top 10, I'm going to project them 4 laps led. It's the guys who have shown speed throughout the year. And you got to remember, we're just coming off a Charlotte race to where a lot of guys, had issues in that race. The lineups got mixed up a ton. Todd Gilliland had another career day, which seems to happen like once a year. I remember last year we all thought it was because it's a flat track. Todd Gilliland's good at flat tracks. He was never good at flat tracks again. So, Gilliland is usually due for 1 or 2 outstanding days of the year, even outside of COTA. But I wouldn't be, like projecting people in the top 10 to get line. I would project it for the guys who should have, really fast cars. The guys that we already know who's going to be fast anyway. I think Enfinger finishes higher. Crafton has been more consistent, obviously, because he's had the exact same car, but I think Enfinger is the better driver right now. So I like Enfinger to finish ahead of Crafton with that question. Yeah, but I like them both. Like I'd love playing all four of those guys together: Creed, Crafton, Sauter, Enfinger. I really like that. Or taking 2 or 3 of those guys. Like that's where I just love to go there. So let's see, how far are we along here? Okay, cool. We're about a half hour. If you guys want to ask some questions, I'll probably come back to Truck Series. I'm going to do the Xfinity Series here just because I'm already... Whew, man, thank you. I'm glad that was on the right page because I didn't even check. So looking at the Xfinity Series race, let me bring up this over here. Sorry. So I'm high on Cindric and Hemrick for fast laps and laps led. Kind of the same question, or kind of the same way that I answered for the Truck Series of who's getting the fast laps and whatnot. Like I'm targeting the guys in this race who have been fast the entire year. This is going to be a race that shouldn't be as crazy as the Truck Series. It should single file out pretty well, and the fast cars are going to cut through the field. It might take a while, but like people like Harrison Burton, people like Kyle Busch, they're going to get through the field. And those are the types of cars that I'm not worried about even getting onto the high side or anything. They're going to cut through the field anyway. Hemrick has been incredibly fast this entire season. I think he's mispriced here. I really do. Like the amount of fast laps and laps led. Like if he actually finished races, he would be like $11,000. Class of the field. Really recently. Like Cindric has taken a step down. Hemrick has moved his way up. I like them to lead laps. I'm really hesitant to play AJ, Haley, and Jones. When you look at the amount of fast laps that these guys have, obviously Cindric, he has some across the board. Same thing with Hemrick, but it's really inconsistent when it comes to AJ Allmendinger. Like the only places he has substantial laps led or fast laps at tracks that kind of correlate to Texas, or at least intermediate tracks. It's Homestead, Las Vegas, and then he hasn't done anything since then. Justin Haley's even worse. They arrived to Vegas well and Homestead well, along with AJ Allmendinger, but they didn't get really anything outside of that. Brandon Jones, kind of the same story. Homestead and Las Vegas were the only places they really showed speed at a place that's close to here. A little bit more towards Charlotte for Brandon Jones, but this is just slightly. This is only 3 Dominator points. So that's why I'm higher on Cindric and Hemrick, and I'm not concerned about AJ Allmendinger starting on the pole, or he's starting on the pole, I got to fade him. It's not that. I'm just looking at things that show like, hey, maybe I should be considering Hemrick more. Maybe I should be considering Cindric more. Certainly, if I'm going after Kyle Busch, I'm going to consider him more. Even Allgaier, Harrison Burton, guys like that. In the back here, you don't have to get as crazy with the punt plays. I just end up. Let me look at my lineups real quick, because I have pretty much, and it's the same thing that I said in the video, I've just kind of zeroed in on Martins and Smithley, and I think just by pure accident, I'm going to be like extremely over the field on those guys. And if they wreck out, they wreck out. If they cost the lineup, they cost the lineup. But right now, we have Tommy Joe Martins in 80% of the lineups. We have Smithley in 80% of the lineups as well. Brandon, you shouldn't go that high on people. You shouldn't go 100%. Like, that's just where we're at. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But that's where I'm at. So because I'm using those two guys in and out of lineups or together, I'm not really touching the 6K range at all. The 7K range, I'm trying to avoid Tanner Berryhill and get more Clements, get more Moffitt, get more Snyder, and even with Kyle Busch. Like, that's where I'd go. I don't think you need to... Oh, and Weatherman's another play. So, like, Weatherman in the 4K range is about the only place I want to go. Everybody who's usually here, and they had to price them up because Kyle Busch is in here, but everybody who's usually in a punt range is just too expensive, and I don't see them paying off at all. I have him as D's because I assume people are going to play him. I think Parsons is going to carry ownership. He normally does. But, God, he's still expensive. Maybe Star, but at that point, I'd just rather take Kyle Weatherman. I feel like their upsides are very similar. So that's where we would go there. outside of that, it's mainly just swapping guys in and out. Let's see here. Oh, not man. See, this is why I've been talking this entire time. See, I'm tired. I told you. I've only had 2 hours of sleep. Sorry about that. So going, mainly because this is what I was talking. This is what I was showing the entire time when I'm talking about the truck series. Like, this is all I was showing. Just the pricing there of the area when I was breaking them down. And I haven't changed the ranking at all. That's just, it's still the exact same for both of these. Yeah, that's how I would look at it. That's how I'm probably going to attack this slate. So like I said, I'm higher on Hemrick, and so I think Cindric's bigger issue is Daniel Hemrick, regardless of what Kyle Busch does. I think Cindric has a real chance of losing the lead to Daniel Hemrick, because if you look at the tracks that I really want to look at, so Las Vegas, Hemrick had more Dominator points than Cindric there. At Atlanta, they were pretty much head-to-head, where both of them really didn't do much of anything. Darlington, Hemrick had slightly more, which is still an intermediate track. Charlotte knocked him out of the water, or Cindric knocked him out of the water at Dover. And then Charlotte, Hemrick knocked Cindric out of the water in terms of the Dominator points. And I'm leaning more towards Hemrick just because he's cheaper. And so Cindric's real issue is Hemrick and not Kyle Busch, in my opinion, right here. Let's see. What else? I may end up with more Clements than I initially wanted to. But I end up getting like $7,100, and everything below that, I have Clements projected to do more than anybody in that range, outside of some of the guys I've already mentioned. And so I think that's why I've ended up on Clements more, just because out of everybody under Clements, he's the one I have highest projected in that range. And so that's kind of why I've ended up on Clements. I'm not probably playing Tanner Berryhill. I don't see that working out. I'm curious on how many people play Myatt Snider and what his ownership is, because Snyder has been underwhelming this year. Obviously, he won at Homestead, but really outside of that, and that was a lucky finish. A lot of things went his way. Basically the line that he was fighting, fell apart. He kind of, that race kind of ended up in his lap. But I like Myatt Snider here. I think he's underpriced too. And I'm 60-40, so I'm 60% with Kyle Busch, 40% without Kyle Busch. I didn't purposely try to get there. That's just where we ended up on the lineups. If I'm with the field, over the field, whatever the case is, I have lineups with Kyle Busch and without Kyle Busch projecting to be incredibly close. And whenever that's the case, I typically lean to making more lineups without Kyle Busch, just because you're not, like with Kyle Busch paying up that much, you need, more like punt plays or not as secured plays or not as fast cars performing well. Whereas when you don't play Kyle Busch, you can fit in, more cars that, equipmentally should run better than some of the cars you have to play with Kyle Busch. But it's very similar here. I can't make heads or tails of it that much. So let's see here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate that. I know we're kind of early here, but I still appreciate it. Let's see, what else do we have here? I think that's pretty much it. Anybody have any last questions for the Xfinity series or the truck series or anything you want to really know? Because nothing much has really changed in the rankings since I did them on Thursday. Let's see. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I wish these guys were. I honestly wish Jade Buford was the minimum and Ryan Vargas was a bit higher. But I'm not getting any of these guys. Matt Mills and Galding, I still have projected for negative points, just because I think this race goes green and they both finish close to the tail end of the field. But even if you project Galding for like 10 points or whatever, it's not gonna be good. Fuck no, man. That'd be like IROC. No, that'd be very similar to fucking Counter-Strike, to where there's like 50 people that play every line. Like, yeah. I don't know. Hopefully the Superstar Racing experience is cool. But also, I need to get with you guys at Fast Cars Fast Money, in case you guys ever want to hop on here or have me on the show or chit chat and whatnot, since there's only about 4 free things, or 4 people covering these lower series now. But yeah, I totally forgot that was even. I probably won't even watch that. I'll probably be passed out tonight. I'll probably watch it later or watch some highlights or something like that. Oh no, I haven't covered this. So the Allgaier and Cindric. I'm pretty sure I have a lineup with Kyle Busch and one of those guys in there, but let me look. And I didn't hate the line. I know for a fact I've projected them. I don't know if I've actually put it in. I'm only playing 8 lines on both races today. Let me look. I got Gregson, and I got Justin. Let me look. So I haven't played lineup with those two, or with either one of those guys with Kyle Busch, but they've certainly projected well. But I think I have. Sorry, let me copy this again. And even if you copy and paste the link on there, it's still private. So even if you have the link, you can't view this. I think I have Noah Gragson for the highest projection. Yeah, second to Kyle. Actually, I have so my highest projected plays in this race are Kyle Busch, Josh Berry, and Noah Gragson. And then after that, it's Hemrick and Cindric. So hopefully that kind of helps out there. Man, IndyCar is so boring. Formula 1 is boring to watch too. I don't know how those guys watch. I don't know how people watch those. Like, that stuff is so boring to me. Well, I go to ovals, and then IndyCar went to Texas this year, and it was horrible. It was super boring. Yeah, and Supercross, Motocross is cool. Darn shame the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series is now defunct, because that was an awesome series to watch. Or Dirt Track Racing, just always go there. Truex on trucks, I'm not on Truex. Not at all. I didn't see need to get there. There was at no point am I really in that 6K range of these 6K guys. I'm not using Haley Deegan or Austin Wayne Self. That might be problematic, but I don't think you need to use them. Because you need them to hold on to their positions, and maybe they do if people wreck out, but maybe these are the guys that will wreck out, and they're expensive. When you're trying to get in those guys that I've already talked about here that I like, it's Deegan and Self. You're not in that range as them being the last person in. You're in that punt range. You're in the bottom of the salary. I'm not too high on let's see. Oh man, and Lewis Hamilton too. Like Lewis is a great driver, but it's Mercedes. Like it's Mercedes, man. It's like it's just a more extreme version of the charter system in NASCAR. But instead of 20 cars, you have 40 here. But it's still the same, to where F1 is just more on who are you with Mercedes or are you not? That's what it all boils down to, and so it just it gets boring to watch. How many Dominators? It's always Dominators, always that. So, I haven't even thought of that. I haven't even thought of that word this entire weekend. Let's see. Probably one, but you're chasing more place differential here anyway. Like, it's either you're playing John Hunter Nemechek or crafting, or you're doing the place differential plays. And so, yeah. So we're probably going to end it there because we did go, around 45 minutes, talked about both races, said what I wanted to say there. And yeah, thank you guys for watching everything. If you like what I do, send $1 on PayPal. Link is in the description below. Join a Patreon tier if you want to do that. If not, like I said, Patreon or PayPal, or just, keep tuning in. I do appreciate that, guys. And thanks for coming in and chatting with me.